The cause of the social evils is the unemployment.
High cost of living, demos turn costly for the protesters.
And is Kenya heading on a collision course with the United States?
It cannot now lie in the lips of the prosecutor to allege that we denied assistance and did nothing. No.
Plus, Attorney General Githu Muigai defends Kenya before the ICC.
And a weighty affair. It is a record 10 kilograms for Busia newborn.
This is KTN Prime with Yvonne Okwara and Wilson Mburu.
A very good evening to you. You're tuned in to the most comprehensive bulletin in the country. This is most definitely KTN Prime.
Thank you very much for joining us for the top stories tonight. And we start off right here in the capital, Nairobi. Hundreds of protesters today took to the streets in the capital, protesting what they say is a poor state of the nation.
Among other things, the protesters cited unemployment, corruption and insecurity as factors that have left the country in dire straits. The protests, organized by activist Boniface Mwangi and Reverend Timothy Njoya, were however dispersed by anti-riot police.
Sharon Momanyi has the details.
This was the symbol of the day. Baby dummies which the protesters used to illustrate what they say is 50 years of a stunted Kenya. The group largely made up of young people decrying unemployment in the country.
Kusema ukweli majob ziko si ati haziyuko ni kunyamazia wamenyamazia nazo. Unaona? Saa youth anashindwa side yao ni gani? Kama angekuwa wanatuonyesha ile side ndio kwenda tungekwenye tunakubali hata tungekuwa hapa.
Is it the cause of the social evils is the unemployment? All these youths here, you could have been seeing them if they were employed. But you see, it's the government that has failed in their duty to provide for their employment. And this is the result.
But unemployment was not the only grievance. The placards telling it all.
They are mortgaging the country. 300 billion. How much money we are giving to education? Less money than that. Combined, both the Ministry of Education and Healthcare, they cannot match the money we are paying to the debt. 300 billion.
They marched from State House Road through Kenyatta Avenue, headed to the Freedom Corner, where they were to converge before marching all the way to Parliament. Reverend Joya was also meant to deliver a sermon on the state of the nation at the venue. But this was not to be. The crowd was dispersed. Others arrested by the men in blue. Moments later, a clear scene. Police banned the protest on grounds of security threats in the city. The Freedom Corner is known to have historically held events of strong political dissent. Today, it was meant to hold another of such an event, but this was cut short by the presence of strong police force on the grounds.
The police have violently broken up our otherwise very peaceful procession, and we're basically exercising our right under Article 37 of the Constitution.
What we don't want to do is go down any of the routes that other countries around us have gone down, you know. And this is civil society. These are individuals. These are musicians like myself, activists coming together to say there are grievances that we need addressed.
Further protest by activist Boniface Mwangi was not to be tolerated. But on the other hand, Reverend Joya, who in his sermon was meant to give an assessment of the wholesome state of the nation in terms of political and economic progress, says some progress has been realized.
There is a great difference, even though you may see the lyrics of the past by tear gas and all that things. Those things we were used to, but I didn't know they would come back. But since they have come back, they are welcome.
The baby dummies tossed into the police trucks and a clear, quiet scene is what would mark the unceremonious end of the protest. This with the resounding of the message that it is not over yet. The protest was carried out despite an accusation by the National Security Advisory Committee that activists Timothy Njoya and Boniface Mwangi are being funded by the US aid to bring down the Jubilee government. Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
Right, and some of those allegations that Sharon Momanyi has just mentioned in that story regarding USAID possibly funding projects to destabilize the government, Ben Kitili will have all the answers for you in just a moment. Let's move away from that for a moment and go to the ICC, where for the first time in its history, the court, that's the International Criminal Court, had a state's legal representative appearing in one of its chambers. Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai was in trial chamber 5B, responding to allegations from Fatou Bensouda's team that the Kenyan government has not been honoring its responsibilities as a signatory to the Rome Statute. KTN's Edith Kimani reports.
Armed with a 31-page document, Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai delivered argument after argument against ICC's chief prosecutor Fatou Bensouda's claims. Bensouda has accused the Kenyan government of non-compliance with the International Court, a claim the Attorney General vehemently denied.
It cannot now lie on the lips of the prosecutor to allege that we denied assistance and did nothing. No, we informed the prosecutor that of the following of your requests have been facilitated. You wanted a court file from a place called this and that place, have it. You wanted motor vehicle records of the owners of this vehicle, have it. You wanted this and the other and the other and the other, have it. But of this and this and the other, please go and get a court order, because that is the requirement of the law.
Then the sticky issue of President Uhuru Kenyatta's financial records arose. It has been the prosecution's position that the government of Kenya has frustrated their efforts to get a hold of these documents, which they say could be crucial in bolstering their case against President Uhuru. To this, Professor Muigai threw a counter-accusation.
That the prosecutor, as a prosecutor, is not entitled to this form of material without a court order.
Has the government of Kenya sought the consent of the relevant individuals, specifically in this case of Mr. Kenyatta?
The answer is simply no.
You didn't seek the consent of Mr. Kenyatta because you are prohibited by Kenyan law to seek the consent, or you are not obligated by Kenyan law to seek the consent?
It's neither my duty under the Rome Statute nor my duty under Kenyan law to seek such consent.
Prosecution, however, accused the Attorney General of doublespeak, saying he had given indications that the process of Bensouda's office acquisition of the bank records was on course, an allegation that was met with a lesson on Kenya's bank laws.
The Central Bank of Kenya is the regulator of banks, all banks. And in terms of processing requests, we would send that sort of request to the regulator. Then the regulator would send the request to the specific bank or banks.
Trial Chamber 5B is expected to make a ruling on Kenya's alleged non-compliance, a decision that could either make or break Fatou Bensouda's case. Prosecution has made it clear that their case against President Uhuru is hinged on acquiring his financial records, records which Bensouda says she can only get with the help of the Kenyan government. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Our story leads us to our big Q tonight, and we are asking, do you agree with the Attorney General, Professor Githu Muigai, that the government is cooperating with the International Criminal Court? Do you agree with the AG that the government is cooperating with the ICC?
Send us your thoughts. Our SMS number is 22155. Start with a yes or no, followed by a brief comment. You can also share your thoughts with us on Twitter at KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, and at Wilson_Mburu. We will give you the poll results of that big question at the end of this live newscast.
Now, the Court of Appeal has nullified the election of Othaya Member of Parliament Mary Wambui, setting aside a judgment by the High Court that declared Wambui as a validly elected. The appellate court says a certificate nullifying the election should immediately be issued to the National Assembly. The ruling now paves the way for a by-election just 8 months after Wambui was declared an MP in a closely contested poll. Karunderi has that story.
These are celebrations of Peter Kingara and his supporters after the Court of Appeal ruling. They were dancing to the downfall of Mary Wambui Monene, whose election as the Member of Parliament for Othaya has just been nullified. Appellate judges Al-Nashir Visram, Otieno Odek and Mother Koome declared the march for the election in Othaya, Nyeri County null and void, saying Mary Wambui was irregularly elected. The three judges said that the election was marred by irregularities and the High Court Judge Jairus Ngaa ought to have ordered for a recount of votes on September 12, 2013 during the ruling as there were glaring discrepancies. Judge Al-Nashir Visram said the recount of votes is not rocket science and this ought to have been done to unearth more. The judges said there was no way to determine if Wambui had been validly elected without recounting the votes. This now paves way for a new election in Othaya. Mary Wambui said she is optimistic that she will be voted again as the MP for Othaya.
We wait whatever things are. God is there. We trust in God. We don't trust in money. We will never trust in money in this world. We know what is happening.
Peter Kingara came in second during the elections. He now says his victory in court has been a long and tedious battle, and he too is confident of a win if fresh elections are called in Othaya.
The good thing is that the Court of Appeal has been very thorough, and like I said, it restores my faith in the judiciary. I've been a lawyer now for the 23 years, and I was feeling, is this what I've been fighting for? That even in my own case, justice will not be done. So really, for me, it's a personal victory. It's also a vindication of my life as a lawyer, in that for some reason now I see that what we have fought for, still stands.
Wambui was accompanied by the Juja Member of Parliament, Francis Waititu, who stood by her.
We followed this case because we wanted to understand the way it is. Because she's been up and down running because she was not doing her work in Othaya because of being called now and then. But the Nyeri case, many people know in this country that there are candidates who are backed by forces well known to the Kenyans. And I know now they are giving us a trial with the new government, and we know she was elected by Othaya people, and we are coming down as TNA and Jubilee to claim our seat from the people. And we thank the people of Nyeri for electing her, and we ask them to hold, and we are coming back to them because we knew all these things will happen.
This recent development will definitely intensify the rivalry between the Othaya MP Mary Wambui and the petitioner Peter Kingara. Observers will also be interested to see what the by-election will bring, given the fact that the former President Mwai Kibaki was greatly involved in the last elections in Othaya constituency. Carol Njeri for KTN at the Nyeri Law Courts.
Now, the Teachers Service Commission takes the lion's share of the country's wage bill. A new study on the public sector wage bill reveals that the TSC takes up 30% of the country's 500 billion shilling wage bill. The civil service, including the armed forces, take up 25.2%. The new findings were released as the Salaries and Remuneration Commission said it was considering abolishing or consolidating allowances for civil servants to help bring the unsustainable wage bill under control.
Economists have in the recent past raised concerns over the unsustainability of the country's wage bill. The wage bill, which rose to 500 billion shillings in the last 1 year, is among the highest in the region. Of the $500 billion shillings in wages, the Teachers Service Commission takes 30.2%. The second biggest payout goes to the civil service, including the armed forces, at 25.2%. Parastatals come in third, taking up 21.5%. The newly created county governments take the fourth biggest share of the country's wage bill at 15.6%, followed by commissions, parliament, the judiciary, and public universities.
As a ratio of GDP, our wage bill stands at 12.5%. Well, globally, they recommend about 7%.
The new research by the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research Analysis, KIPRA, reveals that allowances paid out by the government are driving up the wage bill.
In some instances, the allowances are almost 100% or more than 100% of the basic pay.
There are also other fees, commissions, honoraria, and other benefits that employees get.
The attractive allowances, according to the new study, have made the public service a better employer than the private sector. But even with the good salaries and allowances offered by the government, the productivity of workers does not match up.
Whereas we've had increase in wage bill, it's not commensurate to the efficiency offered in the service delivery.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission says it will, in the next 3 months, look into ways of bringing the allowances under control.
Either consolidating some allowances, abolishing them, or advising on how to consolidate them within the pay system.
And as the country seeks a formula to deal with the unsustainable wage bill, experts are warning that the country will lose its competitive edge as an investment destination, increase its borrowing, and may be forced to reduce funding designated for development. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Now, and related to those demonstrations, the National Security Advisory Committee has claimed that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, was funding demonstrations to destabilize the government. But in a swift reaction, the U.S. Embassy to Kenya denied the allegations, saying they give legitimate support to Kenyan agencies with the full knowledge of the government. Ben Kitili reports.
The latest of a spate of protests organized by activist Boniface Mwangi. Even though police scuttled what he called his last demonstration, dubbed the Feb 13 protest, Mwangi and his colleagues have ruffled a few feathers in government. The Kenyan government now claims that the United States Agency on International Development, USAID, is funding activists in Kenya in efforts to destabilize the current government. On Wednesday, February 12th, a meeting of the National Security Advisory Committee ordered the Foreign Affairs Ministry to summon USAID officials immediately to give information on the same. A statement signed by the Security Advisory Committee Chairman Francis Kimemia outlines 2 individuals who the state says have led the anti-government protests. The committee identifies a Boniface M and John J, but does not disclose their full identities. The Security Advisory Committee has warned that such efforts to destabilize government and tarnish leaders' reputations will not be tolerated, asking USAID to respond in tandem with international protocols where such organizations risk expulsion from the country. But the United States Embassy in Nairobi has denied the claims that USAID was funding anti-government demos or trying to destabilize the state. A statement from U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Robert Godek, has explained the relationship between the embassy and civil societies as purely developmental. USAID has been one of Kenya's most helpful donor agencies, supporting the bulk of the projects in the health sector. The government's allegations against USAID could deal a major blow to relations between Kenya and the United States government, and talk of expelling the US donor agency underscores the gravity of the issue. But would it be inevitable if the government's claims were true? A fresh challenge for Nairobi and Washington, D.C. to deal with. Ben Kitili, KTN, Nairobi.
Let's move away from those matters and on to health matters now. In recognition of the International Condom Day, volunteers from the National AIDS Control Council and National AIDS and STI Control Program distributed 1 million condoms to the public as Kenya marked International Condom Day for the first time. In order to realize the dream of 0 new HIV infections, HIV and AIDS activists urged couples to remain faithful to their partners or use condoms.
On the eve of Valentine's Day, Nairobi seemed poised to acquire a new landmark. The Tom Mboya monument was temporarily forgotten as a group of city residents turned their attention to the tree next to it. They adorned it with decorations of an unusual kind, and when they were done, strings of condoms of all sizes and shapes hung from the branches. This, an ode to International Condom Day, fittingly marked on the eve of Valentine's Day. In a country where the C word is still a taboo topic, the display seemed to break the ice.
Ati kuna male na female condoms na pia usage ya female condoms, though male najua. Na ni poa kama ni lazima ucheze game mpaka utume tu protection.
While the national HIV prevalence rate has dropped to 5.6%, in Nairobi the prevalence rate stands at 8.6%. Sexual transmission is responsible for most new infections, and condoms have been identified as a key to preventing further infections. Across the country, among persons aged between 15 and 24, studies have found that 43% of males and only 11% of females used condoms, while in the group of persons aged between 25 and 64, 14% of males were found to use condoms, against just 5% of females who used condoms. This phenomenon is attributed to the gap between knowledge and practice.
In Kenya today, we are getting like 90,000 plus new infection. We are getting, like, it's so sad, last year we documented 500,000 abortions. We have to show the importance of condoms and the proper way of using condoms.
Yet, while there is still much to be done, the message appears to be sinking in. Every year, Kenyans use between 150 and 180 million condoms. The government now preparing to meet this demand.
Enough condoms in the country. As we speak, we have actually 100 million condoms in store. And we use about, as a country, we use about 150 to 180 million condoms per year. So the stock that we have is enough to take us for the next 7 to 8 months.
Isikue siku moja ndio ina mess life yako mzima. So I'd rather kama unaweza, si ati kama unaweza, lazima yani kama si muhimu yani kutumia condom.
On the eve of the most extravagant celebration of love, the condom tree stood smug in the middle of the city, reminding Kenyans planning to celebrate the holiday to factor in a condom. Wilkistanyabwa, KTN.
Let's now go to a story that has got Kenyans talking. Babies are normally born weighing between 2 and 4 kilos. It is very unusual for a baby to weigh more than that. But Busia County has witnessed this very rare occurrence when a woman gave birth to a baby boy weighing 7 kilograms. Najma Ismail has the details.
It is in this hospital that the country's biggest baby was born. Baby Robin Van Persie Mango was born with a staggering 7 kilograms to the amazement of doctors and family members. Robin's mother, 29-year-old Melvin Mango, says she was very surprised.
Alikuwa na uzito sana, hata nilikuwa nafikiria wanaweza kuwa mapacha ama hata watatu.
Niliona tu ni kama ya kawaida, lakini kufika miezi 8 ikawa mzito, hawezi hata inuka. Ikawa ni kitu si cha kawaida, mpaka nikamtuma hapa na Angina. Hakuja aone ni watoto ama ni mawe.
Doctors say the 29-year-old mother was transferred to Nangina Mission Hospital after her condition deteriorated and was quickly taken into surgery.
Doctors who were to take her to theater were also surprised and got worried. They tried to resuscitate her, and immediately they made a decision of a 50-50, either to save the mother and lose the child, or save the child and lose the mother.
Hours into the critical surgery, the miracle baby, who has already been christened the name of one of the world's finest footballers, was born after a successful cesarean section.
Taking into consideration of that weight, they started doing the test to confirm whether there is any ailment or any abnormality.
Babies usually reach the 7-kilogram weight at the age of 3 to 4 months. Doctors say that a mother would have an abnormally big baby if they suffer from diabetes or have unhealthy eating habits. But this mother and her child are just fine. The family was happy to receive their new bundle of joy, and maybe baby Robin Van Persie has just earned himself a place in the Kenya Book of Records for being the country's biggest baby. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
Time to take a short break now, but let's remind you of our big question tonight, and we are asking, do you agree with Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai that the government is cooperating with the ICC. Do you agree with the AG that the government is cooperating with the International Criminal Court?
Indeed, we're seeing some of your comments, but just in case you don't remember the SMS number, it is 22155. Remember to start with a yes or no for your comment to count, followed by a brief comment after that. On Twitter, you can also do the same at KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, at Wilson_Mburu, and we'll give you the poll results at the end and also sample some of your views and comments throughout this live newscast.
We take a short break now, but don't you go away. We have much more lined up for you after the break. 50 heads of state gather in search of answers to the poaching menace.
Mimi ningependa kuwa lawyer katika hii nchi ya Kenya, kuhakikisha kuwa watu wote au maraia wanapata huduma za kweli mahakamani.
You're watching KTN Prime.
We're so glad you stayed with us. You're watching KTN Prime. Welcome back.
Now, London today played host to the illegal wildlife trade that calls for global action to stop poaching and trading in illegally acquired wildlife parts. The conference is part of a week of events aimed at galvanizing efforts to halt the slaughter of endangered animals for their bones, hides or tusks, much in demand in parts of Asia. Here's KTN's James Smart with that report.
With shocking statistics over the illegal wildlife trade, that rhino poaching increased 5,000% between 2007 and 2012, and that somewhere in Kenya, at least one elephant is killed every day of the year. Numbers that tell the brutality and horrifying story of the state of wildlife, not only in Kenya, but world over. The world appears to have listened and is now ready to take a bold action to deal with the criminal industry that is estimated to be worth more than £6 billion.
Kenya has got a fantastic story to tell internationally about what it's done. I really salute the work that the Environment Ministry has done, the Cabinet Secretary, the First Lady showing fantastic leadership, campaigning on the issue. And I think Kenya should stand up and lead Africa and show others what can be done and move forward to finding the solution that we need.
Closer home, the illegal ivory trade activity has more than doubled since 2007, with reports that ivory prices are now about 170,000 per kilo. Local authorities have been overwhelmed in tackling this menace, with poachers getting more elusive and using more sophisticated techniques to evade the law.
What we now have to do is take that to the next stage and get all those governments together in London. So we have over 60 governments and international organizations attending, and they're going to come together and look at three basic solutions that will try and address this. The first is to have a conversation about reducing demand.
Those at the forefront of the fight of illegal trade have always pointed to the fact that Kenya's laws have been too weak in the past to serve as enough punishment or deterrent to criminals engaged in this trade. Indeed, the London conference organized by the UK government brings together more than 50 heads of state and government and are working round the clock to find a uniform legal regime that could help in dealing with the wildlife illegal trade. The British High Commission to Kenya is also engaging the Kenya Wildlife Service (KWS) and the Kenya Defence Forces to increase training and equipment between Kenya and the UK. Indeed, strengthening law enforcement and criminal justice systems alone cannot entirely fight the illegal wildlife trade, and with that comes the question of reducing demand for illegal wildlife products.
Well, if only the Chinese sorted this out, or if only the Vietnamese, the Thais or anyone else, then it would be fine. Actually, it's not well known. I think the country with the second largest participation in the trade is actually the United States. So leadership from the United States is very welcome. So we're trying to get out of this sense of blaming others and saying we all have to come together and take actions in all three areas, not just demand reduction, but law enforcement as well as communities. It's only when we all do that we'll really crack it.
The London conference is one among many interventions that aims to focus high-level political attention and better coordination action across the globe to stem the shocking rise in the trade over the last decade, which has brought whole species to the brink of extinction. James Smart, KTN.
Religious leaders have reacted with dismay to the revelation by the Interior Principal Secretary Mutea Iringo that a committee had been established to vet clerics intending to teach or preach to the youth in Kenya. KTN's Joy Dorin Bira has the details.
The government has blamed the radicalization of the youth on what's happening in different parts of the country, especially the recent happenings in Mombasa at the Masjid Musa Mosque. The government now plans on vetting religious institutions and qualify them on whether or not they are suitable to run religious institutions. But is this a blame game that the government is playing?
A revelation to KTN by the Interior Permanent Secretary Mutea Iringo to vet religious institutions and leaders has sparked debate from different sections of the public, with many questioning whether or not the government is slowly failing to perform its duty, that of providing security to its citizens as per the Constitution.
The government is a culprit in the problems facing us on security.
But when your worship infringes other people's rights, then the government has an obligation to bring control to that.
Skirmishes at the Masjid Musa in Mombasa, where over 70 were arrested in connection to instigating riots, robbery with violence, have been described as a threat to national security. Threats that have been allegedly tied to the teachings in Muslim madrasas.
There is nothing madrasas can actually be blamed for. What needs to be done to either, in my view, is actually to improve the madrasa as one of the educational centers, which I know the Education Act of 2013 and 13 years have actually tried to address.
While the planned vetting conditions appear to be pointed at the Muslim religious denomination, Christian faith are to be affected by the same should the government proceed to actualize the plan.
Personally, as a church leader, I have a portion to blame. Because my question then would be, what is it that we are teaching our people? The disciples continued steadfastly in the apostles' teaching. They followed the doctrine closely, which can be checked. Now, you find the radical groups that come, they are not orthodox in their teaching.
Kenyans too have got varying opinion.
Mosques should be free the way they are, and the government currently said that a mosque in Mombasa will be closed, right? I think that will not be good, because freedom of religion should be there always.
I think they should be vetting churches before they actually register them, so that they can be able to know what course they are doing to the general public. Is it a just course, or is they are just enriching themselves? Because I've seen in most cases, many of the pastors and bishops, so-called bishops, actually are growing richer.
The recent mosque raid saw the government overlooking investigations on minors, saying age would not be a factor in finding the culprits behind acts or violence and terror. And going forward, religion will not be either. Police stormed the Masjid Musa in Majengo after claiming they were attacked when they went to foil a suspected terrorist recruitment exercise. But was a place of worship the right place to do this? Are security agencies provoking religious institutions? Joy Dorin Bira, KTN Prime.
It's time for business now, and Edith Kimani is at hand to give us the latest from our business studio. Good evening, Edith.
Well, thank you, Wilson. This evening, it's more good news than anything. Power generating firm KenGen has commissioned geothermal well, but what's exciting is the potential of the amount of megawatts that could potentially come out of this well. We also have a lot more coming in store for you shortly. Welcome to the business. I'm Edith Kimani. Now, Kenya has for the first time made shipment of mineral estimated at nearly 400 million shillings to China. Here are the details.
Mid-morning at the port city of Mombasa, history is unfolding. The first consignment of Kenya's natural resource makes its way to the port for shipment. This marks the end of a near 15-year wait for Kenya to officially export its minerals. Cabinet Secretary for Mining Najib Balala is at hand to witness and commission this shipment. Estimated at a cost of 387 million shillings, the minerals are loaded in a ship for a journey across the Indian Ocean to China.
We are here today on the final day. We are exporting our key mineral out of the country for the market, for the international market. This also will prove that we have major deposits of minerals that we are now starting to export out of the country.
The 25,000 tons of ilmenite was shipped by Kwale-based Base Titanium, a subsidiary of Australian firm Base Resources. This follows the granting of export license to the company by the Kenyan government.
This represents a step increase in the exports that leave this country to earn foreign currency. We are, in this project, contributing now significantly as the country strives to become an export-driven economy.
To date, the company says it has invested over 30 billion shillings in the project, previously known as Kwale Sand. In its projection, the company says it will be producing 330,000 tons of ilmenite, 80,000 tons of rutile, and 30,000 tons of zircon each year for the next 13 years of the mine's life. Kenya expects to earn over 25.5 billion shillings from the minerals over the next 13 years in taxes and royalties. Joseph Bonyo, KTN Business.
More good news as power generating firm KenGen has commissioned a new geothermal well with the potential of producing 30 megawatts of power. This, the firm says, is a major boost to Kenya's electricity generation. At 3,000 meters deep, the well is said to be able to produce enough power to supply the whole of Nakuru town. Now, currently, the largest well by KenGen has the ability to produce up to 18 megawatts. The new well will go a long way in boosting government efforts to produce 5,000 megawatts in another 3 years. This, it hopes, will help in reducing current costs of production that have rendered Kenya a very expensive investment destination.
It's the largest well that we have tested. This well is producing 30 megawatts now. The largest well before this we had was at 18 megawatts. We have sufficient steam right now to power the 280 megawatts that we are constructing, but we are continuing with the drilling so that we are ready for the next 140 plus another 140 that are in the program of the 700 megawatts of geothermal power that KenGen is putting into the 5,000 megawatts that the government expects to have in 40 months from July last year.
It's now nearly a year after the groundbreaking ceremony for Konza City was performed, and Makueni County Governor Professor Kivutha Kibwana has questioned the national government commitment towards the multi-billion shilling project. Here are the details.
The groundbreaking ceremony for Konza City in Makueni County brought with it a lot of excitement in the country. At last, Kenya had made the first step in establishing Africa's first technopolis, Silicon Savannah. But a year later, very little has happened in these grounds that are expected to catapult Kenya into a leading ICT hub in the continent. This has seen the national government commitment to this dream being questioned.
This Konza City business has been on for a long time, and I'm not personally sure that there is the seriousness that is needed to actualize this project.
Initially, 14 large firms had expressed interest in the first stage of the Technology City project, set to be carried out in 4 phases of 5 years each. The firms the government indicated at the launch were willing to start work immediately on the 5,000-acre project. These local leaders noted needed a fast tracking.
1 year
down the line, slightly over 1 year, all we can come and do is to say, finally, there is NEMA approval. Goodness. This is not what we expected.
However, the state, while admitting in-house hurdles in executing the project, says its commitment to the project remains a priority. The ICT Permanent Secretary says this will see work commence in another 4 months.
I hope that in the next financial year, because we have made specific budgetary proposals, we believe that Parliament is going to approve much better budgetary allocations for the CONSA project. We have made the necessary proposals, and it is soon coming up in Parliament.
To demonstrate this, officials of the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, were on site to issue the certification on the impact assessment report to the Technopolis Development Authority. The report gave the project a clean bill of health.
We had issues, without being very specific, most important of which was water provision. But I'm happy to stand here to say that after we licensed Thwake Dam, we were sure now that the issues about water here have been addressed.
If successful, the city is meant to be part of the special economic zones that will replace the export processing zones and hopefully create some 200,000 jobs.
Let's close this segment on a positive note, where Kenyan farmers will now be able to sell their produce across the East African community. This follows the launch of the East African Exchange Platform in Kenya, and Philip Keitani has the details.
Post-harvest losses in Kenya has for years remained one of the biggest challenges faced by farmers. This has been attributed to lack of proper storage that forces farmers to sell their produce cheaply to brokers or to the national granaries. But with the launch of the new trading platform, Kenyan farmers can rest easy in reaping the benefits of their toil.
What we're going to be doing is we just take the produce, we publish, we say, you have got so many kilos, you have got so many kilos, you have got so many kilos. We put it on a portal. You come and see. So we say this much is happening. This is the maize which is there, and we'll put it. All the maize is sold ex-warehouse. In other words, the produce is sold according to the warehouse where it is located.
Under this new system, agricultural trade will be expanded to a level where non-commodities such as maize, beans, and pyrethrum stored in certified warehouses can be bought and sold online without physical movement. This has been made possible by the harmonization of the agricultural product standards by the East African member states.
If we take advantage of commodity exchanges, now that we have EAX, I believe food security discussion will be a matter of the past.
While agriculture continues to remain a key pillar in the Kenyan economy, losses suffered by farmers has seen its contribution to the GDP drop over the years. With the exchange, fortunes of farmers is expected to grow, with market penetration across the East African region.
The way that the exchange works is like these warehouse receipts are traded. They are traded on the exchange. So you buy a warehouse receipt, meaning I bought that farm, that maize, or that bean, those beans, and that's how it actually really works.
Headquartered in Kigali, Rwanda, East African Exchange is owned by African Exchange Holdings, a company that is associated with Nigerian multi-millionaire Tony Elumelu. It aims to transform the way small farmers and traders do business within the East African region and provide global market access to local farmers through proven technology. Philip Keitani, KTN Business.
That's all from the business desk. Clean Washira is standing by with the day sports, but first, back to Wilson Mburu in the main studio.
Thank you very much, Edith. Let's take a recap of our top story tonight. When police lobbed tear gas to disperse demonstrators at Nairobi's Uhuru Park, the police sealed off the grounds to prevent the demonstrators from accessing the park. The demonstrators were protesting the high cost of living, insecurity, corruption, and impunity, among other issues facing the country. The government had earlier claimed that a U.S. donor agency, USAID, plans to destabilize the government through the activists. National Security Advisory Committee Chairman Francis Kimemia says they have asked the Foreign Affairs Ministry to summon the United States Agency for International Development officials over the matter.
Right, and on that note, let's remind you of our big question tonight. We're asking you, do you agree with the Attorney General, Professor Githum Muigai, when he said at the ICC today that the government is cooperating with the criminal court? So let us know your thoughts. Please text us,
22155 is the text number. Or you can tweet us at Wilson_Mburu, at Yvonne Okwara, or at KTN Kenya. Will most certainly sample some of your views and give you the end result, or the results at the tail end of this newscast.
That's right. Let's take a short break. Lynn Washira will be in our sports studio right after that with the latest sporting events today. Do stay with us.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to another action-packed edition of KTN Sports Today. I'm Lynn Washira. We kick off the bulletin in matters football, where the 2014 Kenyan Premier League season kicks off this weekend, and Ulinzi Stars hope to start strong at home to Chemelil Sugar. The Defence Forces side last won the league title in 2010, and Coach Salim Ali says 2014 is their season. Nick Mudimba has the details.
3 years without a trophy is such a long time for a team that receives the best support. For Ulinzi Stars, watching the title remain in Nairobi for 3 successive years has been painful enough. And as they prepared for their season opener against Chemelil Sugar on Saturday at the Okwara Stadium, the soldiers say they are determined to shoot down all the opponents.
Kujiandaa tumejiandaa vizuri katika msimu huu, na kitu muhimu ni mechi ya kwanza. Ndio unaweza gauge wachezaji wako, tujue kiwango ile wamefika, na hiyo ndio tunatarajia at least kuwe na mwanzo mzuri.
Ulinzi Stars did not break the vault in beefing up the squad. 7 players from different KDF formations joined the club.
Wachezaji wale tumewachukua hii mwaka karibu 9 wote tumewachukua katika upande ya kazi. Hatujachukua player yote kutoka nje ya kazi.
Ulinzi finished 8th last season with 41 points, a record the players say do not belong to them.
Season ndio inaisha, ligi ndio inataka kuanza weekend, na tuna hope vitu zitakuwa vizuri. So far tumejiandaa salama, sioni shida yoyote, hatuna major injuries, kila mtu yuko set.
The opening match is a repeat of the opener in 2010 when the last won the title. Nicholas Mudimba, KTN Sports.
And staying with football, Kenya has risen 1 position in the latest FIFA rankings released today. The country is now placed in position 108th, up from the previous 109th. Kenya has, however, dropped 4 points from last month's 304th to the current 300. There has been no activity in the period under review. The Stars have continued to improve following victories during the Sekafa Senior Challenge Cup in December. Stars are, however, still way behind Uganda Cranes in the region, who bagged an enviable 18th place continentally and 84th in the world. The Black Stars from Ghana were 2nd, while Egypt are 4th and 5th, respectively. Spain, Germany, and Argentina retained their top 3 positions. And shifting gears now from football to some athletics news, Emmanuel and Geoffrey Mutai are not average marathoners. Besides sharing a surname, they also command respect in the marathon running across the world. Battle Royale is expected on the 13th of April in London, when the two face off in search of the finest distance runner. Let's have a look. Boston Marathon champion Geoffrey Mutai and 2011 London Marathon champion Emmanuel Mutai will line up for this year's London Marathon with equal amount of respect. Geoffrey Mutai is the fastest marathoner of all time, although his time of 2 hours, 3 minutes and 2 seconds at Boston Marathon was not ratified as a world record. His first time, however, is not enough, considering he has not run on the London course before.
It's not an easy course, it's tough again. Because there are many sharp corners and wheels, but the most thing there, I see many athletes going there. I see they going only for winning, but sometimes even to explain about time, depending on weather.
On the other side, Emmanuel Mutai will be making a record 7th appearance in London, where his 2011 winning time of 2 hours, 4 minutes and 40 seconds stands as the London course record. The 2009 world silver medalist is, however, jittery after finishing 2nd in London last year.
Last year, I made a mistake, but I don't say it was a mistake because even the preparation for that race last year was not good for me. But course record might be broken this year as far as maybe if the pace is going smooth.
Both Geoffrey and Emmanuel Mutai remain modest about the kind of race they expect in London, with none shouting too high about their abilities to emerge top.
I'm focusing myself only in the race, so I'm not thinking about my colleagues or one, but I know at the end must be a winner.
Everybody is fearing everybody because you don't know how strong the person you are with the other opponents, but for the competition, I know at the end of it, there must be a winner.
The last time the pair met in the majors was at the 2011 New York Marathon, where Geoffrey ran away with the trophy ahead of Emmanuel, who restrains from putting in his thoughts about the survival of his course record in London. The April 13 event is set to redefine marathon running if the overall elite field is anything to go by. It's without a doubt going to be a fantastic race there. And finally, the International Tennis Junior Championships that Kenya has hosted for the past 3 weeks has proved to be a slippery affair for Kenyan players. Their performance in total is in total contrast from the years gone by when Norbert Odur, Evelyn Otula and others ruled the courts with relative ease. Moses Wahisi sought to find answers to the fading glory.
The two Kenyans Masters of Doubles have proved to be the only successful pair representing the country in the 6th Kenya International Junior Championship that has attracted over 100 participants from 33 different countries. Kenya has, however, not been lucky on the singles front, since most of the players barely reached the quarterfinals stage. Many theories have been advanced as to why Kenyan players falter so early, but the players themselves blame inadequate playtime and lack of quality competitions.
I know that Kenyans are not good in singles. We are good in singles, but we need to get the experience more like they're doing.
We don't have that experience that they have because they're playing different people in every month, every week.
Most of the best players have opted for greener pastures, mostly in America. For instance, United-based Mwenda Mbiti, who is in the country for the tournament but will soon be on a flight back. This, according to tennis administrators, is good for the play, but not for the country.
It could be probably the issue of looking for more opportunities for the sport. We still encourage it because it also earns them a living.
It is evident that the Kenyan talent bank is promising, and what the Kenyan players need is exposure.
You need a tournament to know where I'm going wrong. So where you're going wrong, that's when you go back to training, you need to work it out every time.
Ismail Changawa and Stephanie Mbaya, ranked first in the Kenyan boys and girls category respectively, will be representing the country next week at the African Junior Championship in Morocco. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
Well, the Kenyan pair lost the doubles final to Italy's pair of Giacomo Adosecchi and Sasha Massetti. And that's how we end tonight's edition of KTN Sports Today. Be sure to join us tomorrow for another comprehensive bulletin. I'm Lynn Washira. Do stay with KTN and have a very good night.
Right, so tonight we want to end our news with a story of the World Radio Day, which this year recognizes the place of radio in bringing the world's women into focus.
Now, the Standard Media Group's Radio Maisha was not left behind in these celebrations. Take a look.
Utawapata wanawake, asubuhi utampata mwanamke, masaa ya mchana utapata mwanamke akitangaza, na vile vile masaa ya jioni utampata mwanamke akitangaza, kumaanisha kwamba hakuna ubaguzi katika hii taaluma ya utangazaji ama katika hii fani ya redio.
Na mada ya mwaka huu ni kusherehekea kina dada ama wanawake ambao wamefanya kazi kwenye redio duniani, na redio imetoka mbali sana, na umbali ambao tumefika ni kwa sababu ya wale ambao wametia bidii, haswa wale ambao ni akina dada, kuhakikisha kwamba redio imefika mahala hapo.
Yes, and it's very special, I think, because both of us have something in common. We started our careers in radio.
Our careers in radio.
Yeah, so we know how powerful radio is as a tool of communication. Very powerful, indeed. TV is powerful too, yes. Yeah, I know someone's saying in my ear, what about TV? It's even more powerful. All right, let's get to our big question of the day.
Big question of the night.
Yeah.
We were asking, do you agree with the Attorney General that the government is cooperating with the ICC? Do you agree with the Attorney General that the government is cooperating with the ICC? And here are your results. 61% do not agree with that, 39% only agree with that sentiment.
Right, let's take a look at your text messages tonight. Concerned Kenyan here in Nairobi, you say, nope, if the government was, the AG would not have gone to The Hague to defend the obvious. Let's take a look at another one. This one says, yes, of course, yes, we don't expect our beloved nation to kneel down for the ICC. Those are your text messages. Let's take a look at some tweets tonight. Here's one. Hassan Salem Moody, you say, yes, I agree with the AG. The prosecutors team is not well organized, thus giving them a hard time. And then here's another one. Yatich Zep, you say, yes, Kenya has been hospitable enough to the ICC. Their failure to investigate post-election violence is an unfortunate excuse. So those are your views tonight. We thank you so much for participating and taking the time to tweet us, to text us, and indeed to watch us as well throughout the week.
Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Good night.
Have a good night.